On March 1st, 2024, the world lost one of the most influential figures in all of media, one of the most influential artists in the world, the creator, the author, the artist for Dragon Ball Z, Akira Toriyama. Akira Toriyama is arguably the most successful manga writer, manga creator in the entire genre. The man basically single-handedly made anime popular in the Western world, as Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z would absolutely explode and become to dominate basically Western media and Western cartoons. If you are of a certain age like me, then Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z was likely one of the very first anime that you've ever seen. Of course, at that time, I had no idea what the difference between an anime and a cartoon was. I just thought that this was some new crazy cartoon full of crazy battle sequences and guys shooting energy beams at each other. Born on April 5th, 1955, Toriyama would study design in high school. After graduating, he would work as a designer for an advertising company in Nagoya. A few years later, he would leave the company at age 23, beginning his career in manga. Just 6 years later, at the age of 29 in 1984, Toriyama would publish the first edition of Dragon Ball, the series overnight becoming an instant success. Toriyama died at the age of 68 to an acute subdural hematoma, basically when blood gets between your skull and your brain. This was something that I and the rest of the world was not ready for. Like many other manga artists, manga authors, Toriyama was a recluse. He gave very few interviews with the media throughout his very long-standing career, and for a man as successful as him, it is very surprising how little interaction he did have overall with the media and how few, video interviews he ever gave. Despite this though, Toriyama arguably created the most influential anime of all time, at least of the modern era that I can think of. The amount of people who know of Dragon Ball across the world, regardless if you are an anime fan or not, just shows how much of an impact that this man's creation had on media, on anime as a genre. And like I said, he and his work, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, are really arguably the main catalyst for this explosion of anime outside of Japan to the rest of the world. And Dragon Ball Z really set the standard for the popularity of shonen battle anime across the world, as the number of animes that would try to replicate this shonen battle formula after the success of Dragon Ball is just staggering. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are really, really special to me. Dragon Ball Z was one of the first anime that I ever watched as a kid, and I still remember really fond memories of sitting with my cousin in front of the TV watching the first season of Dragon Ball, the fight between Raditz and Goku. At its core, Dragon Ball Z is like a really simple anime. It follows a story of a group of fighters who love to fight and fight constantly to try and save the world from many threats. At its core, the series is pretty simple. Basically focuses on fight scenes and battle scenes between these characters throughout the show. Over the many episodes and many seasons, the enemies growing stronger, the threats going bigger in a classic, kind of battle power anime shonen style. And while yes, this is a really simple concept in theory, in reality, Dragon Ball is so much more than just a simple battle shonen. Dragon Ball Z was probably the first anime ever that actually made me cry as a kid. I still remember the very first time I watched the Bardock movie telling the story of Goku's father and his tragic sacrifice to basically save his son and to try to save his home planet of Vegeta. The Bardock movie giving us kind of backstory and context to later events that happen in the Dragon Ball Z world, and as well the story of how Goku ended up on planet Earth. Unlike Toriyama's early works of Dragon Ball and even the first season of Dragon Ball Z, the Bardock movie had a level of emotional depth that I hadn't seen from an animated show at that time as a kid, let alone anything in Dragon Ball Z. The story follows the downfall and destruction of the Saiyans' home planet Vegeta by Emperor Frieza, Bardock receiving the power to see the future early on in the movie as he sees a great destruction that is to come on planet Vegeta. This movie has probably one of my favorite scenes in all of Dragon Ball Z, when Bardock ventures to a planet to try to find his Strike Force team, but discovers that they have been betrayed, his entire team being killed by Frieza's minions. Everything about these scenes is just like peak Dragon Ball Z to me. This scene having some of the best music in the entire movie, the soundtrack opening with this really melodic kind of synth, sorrowful sound that has permeated the entire movie as Bardock talks to his dying friend. Suddenly, though, when Frieza's minions show up, our soundtrack switches to Saliva Superstar, a classic banger from the early 2000s, as Bardock goes absolutely ham, killing all of Frieza's minions. The scene of Bardock taking a piece of cloth from his dying friend's body, the white slowly being stained red by his blood, as he ties it around his head in a bandana, is like one of the most like hype scenes in all of Dragon Ball Z, probably in like all of shonen battle anime in my opinion. It still gives me chills to this day, and really to me the Bardock movie really showed how Dragon Ball Z could be more than just this like battle shonen anime. It really fills you with like all of these complex emotions, and like an 8-year-old me couldn't even handle it, and I ended up bawling my eyes out watching this movie, especially in the final scenes when Bardock sacrifices himself in an attempt to save his home planet of Vegeta. But in this moment he has a realization, a vision of the future, as he sees his son Kakarot Goku fully grown, realizing that Goku would be the one that would defeat Frieza. Goku, his son, being the person that would ultimately avenge him and all of their people in the destruction of their home planet. Dragon Ball Z might be one of the most recognizable animes of all time. It spawned numerous video games, from fighting games to just adventure battle, games that tell the story of Dragon Ball, to a number of different anime like Dragon Ball GT. But I guess we don't really talk about Dragon Ball GT, to the most modern interpretation of Dragon Ball Super. But it really extends even beyond just anime fans, as Dragon Ball Z's reach was massive and extended to the lives of many kids throughout the 90s and early 2000s, and even now for Zoomers everywhere with Dragon Ball Super. While yes, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z aren't the most artistically amazing anime you will ever see, you'll find anime with a better, more aesthetic art style. You'll find anime that tell a better, more intricate story and don't struggle with the problems of power creep that these classic power shonens ultimately struggle with. But still, at the end of the day, it's inarguable how important Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is to anime as a whole, as a genre at large, and it's inarguable just how popular Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z became, and I think that there's a very good reason behind that. At the end of the day, Toriyama said that his main guiding mission was making works that entertained people. He didn't care about the deep intricacies of the story or trying to deliver a underlying message in his writing, in his anime, in his manga. All he wanted to do was entertain his audience, and entertain he did. Thank you so much, Akira Toriyama. You will forever be missed. You are an icon of the anime and manga world, and I don't think that anyone will ever live up to your legacy. As always, guys, if you did enjoy the video or learn something new, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as that is the easiest way to help support this channel. Let me know your thoughts on Akira Toriyama and Dragon Ball Z in the comment section down below. What is your favorite memory and moment of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z? I'd love to read them. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then why don't you check out one of the videos on screen now. And as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, drink your water, hug your mother. Peace, love, adu.